On this episode of How'd You Get Here, we interview Barre3 studio owner Katie Heap. It's a great story of a Division I athlete who took all that energy and applied it to entrepreneurship. I hope you enjoyed this interview. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
She is a entrepreneur, I'd say, and a employer, a business owner.
Yeah.
So you do a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm excited to have you on because I think there's a lot of people who, think about opening franchises or thinking about opening up their own business or doing their own thing. And they're always curious of where do I start and how do I begin? And so I'm excited to get to that with you. But I think before we get to that, I kind of want to hear your story. I always like to kind of hear about, where people came from, how they started what they're doing and all that kind of stuff. Because sometimes, maybe you grew up advantaged or maybe you grew up disadvantaged. Yeah. And so we can kind of hear how all that played out. So without further ado, why don't you go ahead and just kind of tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about where you grew up, where you came from, and all that kind of stuff.
Sure. So I was actually born abroad in Holland, of all places.
So are you like a citizen?
I lost my dual citizenship when I turned 18,
bummer.
Which was a huge bummer. I didn't even realize it at the time.
Yeah.
So my legal name is Katarina. And so
kind of hard to say.
It is, and it was botched all growing up.
Yeah.
Katarina or Katrina.
So why were you born there?
My dad worked for Arthur Andersen for a really long time. So he was transferred overseas. We lived in The Hague, which is kind of near the coast.
Okay.
And then we were there. I was born just, I think, a few weeks after we arrived. And we were in The Hague for a year. And then from there, my dad was transferred to the Brussels office. And we were in Brussels, Belgium for 2 years. And then eventually made our way back to Northern California, which is where I grew up for the most part through middle school. I was outside all the time. Yeah. Grew up in the swimming pool. That's how I was potty trained. Of all things, I wouldn't take my swimsuit off. And so my mom's like, well, you can't wear a diaper and wear a swimsuit. And I was like, fine. So that was that.
Potty trained in a pool. I think, is that good or bad?
I was so stubborn. Just like my daughter. It all comes full circle.
Yeah, it does.
So I was a really active kid. I was a competitive swimmer for a long time. And then eventually found my way playing tennis and really liking that. I think I played every sport under the sun, super competitive. I was the middle child.
Okay. So we had to fight to get hurt or...
Older sister, younger brother.
Okay.
But yeah, I think I just came out of the womb that way. I wanted to do everything. So I was always running from soccer practice, rip the jersey off, throw the suit on, dash to the pool type scenario. So we were always busy. And then we made our way to Seattle, Washington, which is a beautiful part of the country, and really enjoyed my time there. But that's where I really kind of focused in on playing tennis.
Okay.
So I played tennis really competitively. I traveled all over the country through the summers, year round, and then eventually took my tennis next level and played at the University of Notre Dame.
Oh, wow.
On a scholarship. So
D1.
Yeah.
D1 tennis.
Yeah, it was a phenomenal experience.
So your parents, it sounds like they're pretty supportive of you.
Oh, yeah.
Because you have to travel and drive around and really be involved in your children's lives when they're involved in a sport at that level. So.
Yeah, we were very fortunate. My dad worked a lot. He traveled a fair amount. My mom was able to stay home with us and was really involved in everything from our school and PTA. She handmade our Halloween costumes. She drove us everywhere, just a constant shuttle bus to activity. And the more I kind of found my passion, I think the more challenging it became to get me to all these places. It meant that my family had to go to vacation in Arizona at every, Christmas because of the Fiesta Bowl. And so it became a little bit of a burden on my siblings having to go certain places because of tennis, or having my mom or my dad gone for a certain chunk of time because I'm off in Atlanta for a week playing tennis. So it was extensive travel, and it became really hard. It eased up a little bit when I could drive myself, because it was, every day, all the time.
Right.
So,
but you loved it.
I did love it. I did love it. It wasn't until later that I found Barre3 that I didn't realize how much passion that I really kind of did have that I didn't have for tennis, but didn't know that. I just knew I was really good at it, and I enjoyed it. And I think I really, I think the part that I loved the most about it was once I did get to Notre Dame and having that team, that group of girls that we were all really close with, that made it really fun, because it became less of an individual sport, and it was just all about the team, because it's a very individual sport growing up, which can be hard. It's very isolating because you're all out there by yourself. It's not a team sport. So I think that's the part of it. Unless you're playing doubles, but truly, until you get to a collegiate level, the focus is all singles. It's all individual. It's just you. It's your ranking. It's your results. And there is doubles at these tournaments, but they don't really mean anything as far as being recruited, if that makes any sense.
Do you have any regrets at all? Sometimes I hear from people who played at a very competitive level like that they're like, no, I never learned how to play violin, or I never learned how to do X, Y, and Z because I had to choose between the sport.
I know. I had such a great experience playing collegiate sports. I think the thing I missed out on is being able to study abroad. I wasn't able to do that. If we weren't at Notre Dame during the summer, taking summer school and training, you were expected to be playing and training at home. And there really wasn't an opportunity to take a break. We didn't get the usual spring breaks with our friends. We didn't get to do a lot of the things that normal college students do. So you kind of do miss out on a certain element of it, because there's a fall season, and then our big travel seasons in the spring starts basically in January when you get home from winter break. So I think that I really wish I could have studied abroad. That was probably the one thing I feel like I missed out on. But then at the same time, I had the experience of traveling and doing all these things and leaving campus that a lot of students didn't get to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you find that it really kept you out of trouble being involved in a sport at that level?
Growing up or in college or both?
Both, yeah.
I think so. I honestly don't know. I think my mom kept us on the straight and narrow. I think she probably would have kept me on the straight and narrow had I not been playing so much, spending so much time playing sports. But I think it did. I think it got me involved with a really good group of kids that were really serious about their athletics as well, and that they were also really serious in the classroom. So we all had the same goals and the drive to excel, not just on, in the pool, on the tennis court, or on the field, but also we wanted to play at a collegiate level. And in order to do that, you also, had to be, your grades had to be up at a certain level too.
Right.
That was always really important to me.
What was the end goal? I mean, was it just like, I want to play in college, or I want to be Serena Williams and be crushing it?
That's a good question. I actually didn't have aspirations of turning pro. I think at a certain age, and a pretty young age, if you have what it takes to go pro, and if you don't have what it takes to go pro. Is that like a
skill or just an internal drive?
No, it's a level. It's something that, these kids that you see on TV that are playing at the Open at a young age or not, they're unicorns. They are being handpicked. They are so far and above kind of the average player.
It's like a gift that you're born with that's really not taught.
It is. And I think at that point, you don't really go to school. You attend academies and you're almost groomed. The USTA, the United States Tennis Association, usually has those people, and they're grooming them at various locations and academies. And that is 100% their focus. And I know they do go to school, and some of them care about it more than others, but more often than not, it is all sport. It is all tennis, all training, all the time.
Yeah.
And, getting a college degree was very important to me. Tennis allowed me to go to the University of Notre Dame where, and I was a very good student, but I don't think I would have gotten in. It's so competitive and it's got even more competitive. My cousin has recently been there. So, it allowed me to excel through college and give me almost that stamped application to get in. It's very competitive. So that was always my goal, was to get the best college education I possibly could, but also to play. I really, really wanted to play. And I was fortunate enough to kind of have my pick of where I wanted to play.
Yeah.
But it was just a feeling that that aligned when I walked on campus, that I just knew it was the right place for me. So I was very fortunate.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So then when you were in school, it's like, all right, focusing on sports, focusing on academics. What did you study in school?
So I was a business major, and I always had, I guess, dreams of working for Nike or Gatorade. I liked the creative aspect. I was never, I wouldn't say I was very creative in the sense that I could just freehand draw something, or that I could sing or just pick up an instrument and start playing. But there was just something to the marketing and advertising piece that I really liked. And I really liked sports. So I liked the idea of doing something in sports marketing. And I knew I wanted to do business. So I enrolled in the Mendoza College of Business, I believe it was my sophomore year. And then at that point, you do take all the basic classes: finance, accounting, marketing, management. And I definitely knew I didn't want to do a few of those. And so I did accounting, yeah, and finance. So marketing was kind of a natural fit. It was fun.
Yeah.
A lot of it is common sense, but there's a lot to it that I think now to this day, have been helpful as a business owner, and certainly in my career leading up to it. And so I was a marketing major, and I certainly tried to get into the sports marketing field, which is really hyper competitive.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah. So that was kind of the direction I was hoping to get when I was in college, is, use tennis to get an outstanding education. And then from there would be move on to the business world.
Right.
Yeah.
So when tennis was done, when you graduated college, was it a relief? Was it like, because you kind of have to train at an exceptional level, right? To keep up, to stay at that level.
Yeah, it's year round, 100%.
You can't just like slack off if you want to be number one.
No, there really weren't any days off. I mean, there were, but you just didn't get like the summer off or Christmas break off. I mean, you were always playing, always training. So my junior year, my mom was actually diagnosed with cancer. The September of my junior year, and she ended up passing away in August, right before I started my senior year at Notre Dame. So coming back my senior year and playing was very difficult from a mental standpoint. I was ill-equipped on so many levels to be dealing with such a loss, and then also being a captain of my team. It was, I think, looking back a bit. I was just unprepared. I didn't have the resources. I was far away from home. So playing was challenging. And by the time we got to NCAAs my senior year, I was done. I actually, my coach knew it. We finished the Big East Championship, and I was just in tears. I just had nothing left mentally. Right. So I didn't play in the national championship my senior year, and I actually coached. I stayed on the sideline with my team, and I was very involved that way, but I didn't play. I just didn't have it. I was done. So so for that reason, I was done. But when I look back on all the years of training, I was happy to hang them up.
Yeah.
It was really tiring, and I was looking forward to finding other areas of my life that I could kind of dedicate that time to, that drive to. I still always wanted to be physically fit, but I knew that I wasn't going to be playing tennis and joining leagues once I left Notre Dame. I needed a break.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then after college, what was your plan? I mean, were you just putting resumes out, or?
Yeah. I mean, Notre Dame has they have phenomenal support at the university. They hosted several job fairs, and you speak to all different types of companies. And as much as you're prepared and you're well educated, and parents that are, my father was very successful in the business world, and I had all sorts of guidance and people. You just kind of fumble around a little bit trying to find your footing, and sometimes it takes a really long time. As it turns out, I was lucky enough to get an internship within the athletic department at the University of Notre Dame. So I stayed. I actually stayed. I graduated, and I came back in the fall, and I lived in South Bend and became a townie. Nice. And, it was fun. It was fun because I was still around the campus. I still saw my coach and a lot of the people that I knew as an athlete and a student.
Yeah.
So I was making nothing, a stipend, nothing. Right. Needed some help from my dad, but I loved it. We worked nonstop for, almost nothing.
Yeah.
But I had a great time. And coming to the close of that year, it was a year program. I was kind of looking again. What do I do now?
Right.
And I was fortunate enough to have some friends from Notre Dame who they were in the medical device industry. And, at that point, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I was barking down Nike's door, Adidas door, and I was just getting nothing.
Nobody was calling
back.
No,
nothing, not even a phone interview. So I needed a job, and I was lucky enough to land a job within a very large medical device company, Becton Dickinson. They're based out of New Jersey. And I moved to Chicago and became like a sales rep, basically like a sales intern first, shadowing, learning. And I was there for not even a year before I was transferred back out to California to be a full-time sales rep. And it's kind of a story from there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know it's like a complete,
you can't plan these things.
Complete 180. I know. And so here I was now in the med device industry and just, almost living out of my car, driving all over the place. And, it was very isolating again.
Right, you're alone.
Yeah. And kind of trying to establish your life too after college, just socially, and so
trying to figure out who you are.
Yeah, and what it is I wanted to do. I think at that point, I was just collecting a paycheck. I was learning. It was a great company. I met some really wonderful people, but it just wasn't going to be a long-term thing for me.
Yeah.
And I was fortunate enough to get a call from Stryker, which is an even bigger company. And one of their divisions was based in San Jose, so just south of where I was, and they were hiring for a position in their corporate office for marketing and events. And so that sounded a little bit more up my alley. And I went to interview, and there was a lot of, it seemed like a lot of people like me. They actually do hire a ton of ex-athletes. It's kind of their MO. And they were young and smart and driven, and everybody still worked really hard. But it was a pretty close team, and it felt kind of right. And so I made the leap and left sales and went in-house, and it was great. I ended up meeting my now husband there.
Nice.
Yeah. And that's what eventually led me out to Colorado, was his transfer from Stryker, San Jose out to Stryker, Denver.
Okay. So he still works with Stryker.
He doesn't. He was with them for almost 11 years.
Oh, wow.
But he's with a different med device company now. But ultimately all these things you look back and you kind of wonder, this crazy path that you're on, and you
see the purpose of it.
Yeah. But at the time you kind of feel lost. I wasn't sure, should I go back? Should I go to MBA? Should I get my MBA? Should I go to law school? I don't know.
Yeah.
I was really kind of floundering there, and I spoke with aunts and uncles and my dad, and I think there was a huge void in not having my mom in a lot of aspects all throughout life, but just not knowing what to do. You're in this big sea, and you could do anything you want.
Yeah.
And you're like, I don't know what I want to do.
Right. But it sounds like it's important to kind of push yourself into something, right? And then allowing things to work out as they, unfold.
Yeah. It took a while, but it did.
Yeah.
I mean, eventually, now sitting here and looking back at all these choices and different directions and turns, and I'm very fortunate. I never would have known, but
yeah.
you know.
So then you get married in California?
No,
Okay.
we moved out here to Denver, and
Okay.
I transferred and I started working for another med device company here based in South Denver, not far from where we are now. We didn't get married for, I think, another 3 or 4 years.
Okay.
And I was in the med device industry ever since I left Notre Dame. I was
Yeah.
in med device and healthcare throughout my career until my daughter was born, and I took a step back and eventually found my path on ownership with Barre3.
Yeah, so tell me about that.
Yeah.
Tell me that story about how.
Yeah.
So you're working for the man, right?
Working for the man,
You're doing that thing,
collecting a paycheck.
collecting a paycheck.
I think that's what it was. Working for the man, collecting a paycheck, not really finding, a whole lot of passion.
Reason to wake up every morning.
Yeah, and then I was in the gym, just doing circuit training and cardio, weights, just never finding that same passion that I had with tennis, right? So I was really kind of missing a lot, just missing purpose, passion, and some things I really enjoy. And I did find bar-based classes, I want to say now 7 or 8 years ago. And it was the first group fitness class I've ever taken. I've always worked one-on-one with trainers, and it was always tennis and training and gym and weights and sprints. So I've never done anything like this, certainly with a ballet bar, in it. But it went by really fast. I loved the music. It was challenging in a very, very different way. And I think I was just looking for someone to tell me what to do, and something that was fun and something that would keep me fit. And so I found these classes and I stuck with them. Nothing I ever thought. It was with a different bar-based company at the time. And a friend of mine told me about Barre3. And it was very different than what I was doing. And I had incurred an injury with this particular studio, and I knew I couldn't stay. I was going to find myself back in physical therapy. So I gave it a shot, and it was very different in a lot of really good ways. And so at that point, I had no idea what that would lead to. But I knew that all of a sudden I was prioritizing my time at the studio, like a meeting, like a really important meeting.
I have to get there.
I planned out my week around it. I would, ditch out and duck out for class in the middle of lunch and speed back to make it back for meetings, and wake up at 5:30 in the morning to go to a 6 a.m. class, which I've never done. I wouldn't even, I certainly didn't want to do that to play tennis.
Right.
So it was just very different. And there was just something about it that I didn't even have the same drive to go play tennis.
Yeah.
And after all those years and the investment, and I just, this was,
like you fell in love with it.
I did. I was passionate to an extent that I really didn't know I had.
Yeah.
It felt good. It was almost like mental and spiritual for me, and it gave me the benefits that I wanted. I ended up getting pregnant as a Barre3 client, and I was very fortunate in my pregnancy to be able to continue to exercise. You never know what's going to happen with a pregnancy, so I was very fortunate to do that. And up until I think my water broke. I think I went to class on a Friday night, and my water broke on Saturday.
Wow.
Yeah, and when my daughter was, I want to say she was 2 months old, the home office in Portland sent an email out to all the Denver-based clients and asked if anyone is interested in owning. And I had thought about it before. I just had never done anything about it.
Yeah.
I thought, gosh, wouldn't this be great? If this could be my job, I would be happy all the time. It wouldn't feel like work.
Right.
So I responded to this email, and I'm, cross-eyed tired and, breastfeeding and all the things. And I filled it out, and the lady reached back out to me and kind of told me the process. And I was just, this is not the right time. Like, what am I doing? I have a 2-month-old baby.
Right.
I am exhausted. This just doesn't feel like the right time to be doing this.
Yeah.
So
real quick,
Yeah.
Did you talk to your husband about it at all?
Yeah, of course.
Did you get the email
Yeah.
and say, "Hey, I got this email"?
Yeah, and we had talked about it before the email ever
Yeah.
came out. It was almost fortuitous that it did, because otherwise I don't know that I ever would have made the leap to
Right.
reach out and say, hey, I'm interested in owning. it is something I had thought about actually for years, because it truly was that first thing that I had all this passion for, that I just loved. It felt so good mentally and physically. And I had always been such an active person, and I loved that idea of being involved in sports and marketing. And this was just a different kind of twist on that. Mm-hmm. So I was just so lucky to have found it, and it just wasn't the right time. So fast forward a year, and I'm home with my daughter.
You didn't go back to work at that point?
I did go back for a little bit, and then I kind of hung it up. I think she was 5 or 6 months. And then I was home, and I can't even tell you what happened. I think I literally woke up one day and I think this is the right time. I want to explore this. It was almost like a light switch or something. I couldn't put a finger on it. And I told my husband, I said, honey, I think I'm going to reach back out. He's like, good, you should. So I did. And it was a long process from there. It was almost a year of collecting information and data, and what does this really look like, and what's the effort, the investment, all the things, and a year of trepidation and talking yourself out of it.
Right.
You know, what if this doesn't work? What does this mean for our family? It was a lot of teeter-tottering and not sure if I had the cojones to do it.
Yeah.
And the home office knew that. We were in conversations. They knew I was kind of going back and forth. And they sent out a master trainer to visit the Denver studio, the Cherry Creek studio, where I had been a client all along. And she carved out some time to talk to me. And we had coffee at Aviano in Cherry Creek. I'll never forget it, sitting outside. And she's a mom herself. And she said, Katie, just go to Portland. You could always say no. Just go. See how it feels, see what happens, and you can always make a decision. Going to Portland doesn't mean you're saying yes. I think I was also a little afraid of them saying no, because it's an interview, and they do say no. They say no a lot. So at that point, she pushed me, and I scheduled the interview for mid-August, and flew out there, and my husband came. And it was in a pretty intense, I think it was 48 hours. You took 3 classes, and took a class from Sadie, the founder and CEO, took class from her.
She's a cool lady.
She's pretty remarkable. Yeah, she's amazing. So took class with her, and then I had an audition, because I wasn't an instructor. I was a client, which for them is a pretty big leap to go from client to owner, because the big piece of it that's missing is, can you be a good instructor?
Right.
That's, I think, why Barre3 or some other fitness studios are very different from other franchises, because you're not just hiring someone to run a business for you. You are there, and you are so physically ingrained in this company, this business. So I did my audition, my instructor audition, and they said, okay, well, go sit down at POA, which is a little coffee shop right next door, and we'll give you a call. And so you're sitting there waiting for this call.
Really?
And the call is either you're meeting with Sadie and Chris Lincoln, and Amy at the time was the vice president of franchise operations, or it's a no.
It's like
and
an
you go
American
home.
Idol tryout.
I know. So here we are sitting next door, and I've just got my cell phone, and your heart's just kind of racing. And I got the call, and she said, well, you must have done something right. You're meeting with Sadie in 15 minutes.
Oh, wow.
I was like, okay. So we just walked right across the corner into the Barre3 headquarters, and had about an hour and a half discussion with Sadie and Chris and Amy. And it was, I think, an interview both ways.
Yeah, to see, hey, can I get along with these people? And do I want to work with them? And do they like me?
Sure.
Yeah.
And, you're entrusting them at the helm of the company. They're they're
right, the marketing, all that stuff is their call.
Exactly. So I left there, and they said, okay, well, we'll call you again. Not sure when the call was going to come. I think they said within 48 hours. So we went and grabbed lunch and just tried to come down from all the nerves and anxiety of it all.
The adrenaline.
And got a call and said, you're in. You're in. We want you.
Did you feel amazing at that point? Was that like one of those moments? I've had a few times in my life where I've worked really hard for something, and then I got that yes, and it was just like, screaming in my car like, yes.
It was surreal. It was surreal. I mean, I cried. My husband and I cried.
Yeah.
Because it was, I think it was just so far out there. It was such a dream and such a far departure of anything I ever thought I'd ever do. And so I think what Harper helped me see is that, you know, yes, you can always say no, but if they say yes, I also kind of had to take that at face value too, that they had the confidence in me to help grow their brand. It's their company, you know, their company. And I didn't look back. It wasn't, okay, maybe let's talk about it. I mean, my husband and I just knew. It was just like, okay, we're doing this.
It's go time.
Yeah. So we got a glass of champagne and went to the airport and flew home.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So how long ago was that?
That was 3 years ago, August.
Okay. So 3 years ago.
3 years ago. It took about almost a year and a half to get the studio open.
Yeah. So is Barre3 a franchise or is it, how does that work?
Yes, it is a franchise. It started in Portland, Oregon 10 years ago, 10 years and a couple months ago. And Sadie and Chris Lincoln opened their first studio there. And then I want to say shortly after they did franchise, and again, mom and pop started in their living room.
Yeah.
And they grew slowly from there. And now 10 years later, I think they're up to 148 locations.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you get the yes, you fly home, then you're like, crap, there's a lot of like business admin that has to take place, right? I mean, you have to find a location.
Yeah.
Was there any
Help?
weird? Yeah. Was there like, there's another bar studio here in town. Was there just one or was there multiple?
At the time there was one.
Okay. So just one in Cherry Creek.
One in Cherry Creek. So I was going to be the second location in Colorado, and like other franchises, I assume there's territory rights. And so, so there was a certain territory that was off limits, and then they had used a mapping or demographics-based company to help kind of map out where they thought the Denver metro area would grow. But essentially, anything out of that territory is fair game, and it's just essentially, where do you want to go? Where you think you have the best chance for success. You know, for us, I didn't want to be too far from our house. I kind of knew where I wanted to be. And I knew that if I didn't have that particular territory, that I probably wasn't going to do it. I didn't want to commute down, 30 minutes. It's just, you're there so much.
Yeah.
It's a second home. So I had a great referral for a broker, and the home office does have someone who helps in real estate. So you're not just flying blind. They have quite a bit of support, just kind of helping you through the process, particularly once you get into negotiations with your landlord in regards to the lease.
So that's huge. I mean, that's like amazing having a business help essentially built into what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, right, they have to Google till whatever and try to negotiate things on themselves. And
absolutely.
Yeah.
I think having somebody there to support me through the lease process was, I don't think you could put even a number on it. Your broker is obviously there as a resource, but you have so many questions, and they know because of the experience from other owners and other landlords, kind of what is acceptable and what things are okay to push back on, and also what things that we could give on that weren't going to be quite as important as other things. So without knowing that, I don't think I could have, I just wouldn't have felt as confident through the process. It would have been a really uncomfortable, lonely process.
right.
Yeah.
So you find the area, the location.
It took a while.
You get help negotiating
The lease.
and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then what kind of help do you get from as far as, all right, you have your grand opening, you pound the pavement, start...
Actually, we do a lot of stuff before
Okay.
the grand opening. So once your lease is signed, it's the first time you can go live on social media. So they have everything ready, your Facebook, your Instagram, literally everything, all your posts mapped out for 2 weeks.
Nice.
And, then you start schlepping your stereo equipment and your core balls and your props, and you start teaching classes, and you're basically drumming up and creating this community from the ground up. So teaching classes out of dance studios, pop-up classes, kind of anywhere they'll have you.
Wow.
And then it starts small, and then the word grows, and people bring their friends, and you're just teaching all the time.
So how long before, when you signed your lease, how long before your space was available?
So it took a really long time to to sign my lease. So I started teaching at the Cherry Creek studio, which was invaluable experience for me to become an instructor in a studio and to have that experience. And the owner, Julie Gordon, was very generous to let me do that, to open up her studio to me as another owner in a nearby marketplace. So I was able to teach there up until, and there was no talk of the new studio. It was very quiet. I was able to teach there up until we went live on social. And then from there, I went to teach classes. And I think I'm veering off from your question, which was...
Yeah, as far as...
the time.
Yeah.
The time, yeah, that's right. I'm
like
sorry.
how long before you got into your own space?
So the lease negotiations took forever. And once we signed the lease in October, it actually went pretty quick after that. So it took so long that in the final stages of the lease, I actually had my permit and the plans before I even signed my lease, which I don't think had ever happened in the history of Barre3. So we were ready to go.
Yeah.
So,
and you moved into a new space, right? I mean,
Yeah.
yours, was it under construction?
So the development itself is kind of it's more than that now, but 3 buildings. And the first building was open and running. It was the second building where we were going to be located. And we were waiting for that building to be done. Okay. And so that's why we had so much time. And so the lease did take a long time, but there was no reason to rush because the building wasn't ready anyways. So we were the first retail business to break ground, which, good and bad.
Yeah.
We didn't have power for almost the entirety of the build out. So we used generators and the crew worked really early, but we couldn't finish. We couldn't finish the cork. We couldn't do, the final, any of the electrical, anything.
Right.
I mean, it's incredible what they did do. So we were... I think delayed from our target about 2 weeks because of that.
Yeah.
And when we opened, we didn't even have Comcast or, we had no sort of internet. We were running on a jetpack. I mean, it was crazy.
So during that season, are you going out there a lot? Like, how did you get people to even come to the rec center or wherever you were going to?
A lot of it was social media and friends inviting friends. And it's all just grassroots, and it's a drag. It's tiring. It was, at first, you were just hoping and praying people would show up. But you do these pop-up classes at businesses that are established, and so they are also helping to get people there, their clients, their customers, and so, that's helpful. And then as you start to do that, then you build a database, and then you start emailing them and letting them know where you're going to be next, and that you're holding underground classes, and so it's unbelievable. It was
grind.
Yes. I mean, that's like an understatement. But that's the point, is that when you open your doors, you're not just hoping people show up.
Yeah, you built that community.
Yeah,
already.
yeah, and they've done it enough times before, my studio opened, that they knew this is kind of how you get it done.
Right.
Yeah, and people aren't you're not just gonna open your doors and people are gonna know Barre3. It does take time, and even still, with all the things we did, it takes time.
Yeah.
It's a massive market out there.
Right.
Yeah.
Sounds like a blessing that not only were you passionate about Barre3, but from what I understand, I mean, I work with a lot of franchises, and I know the difficulties that goes into that.
Yeah.
It sounds like they got their stuff together.
They do.
And really make it a turnkey solution for you. It's like, if you put in the work, you will see results.
Yeah. Yeah. And every market is different, for sure. And so, 1 + 1 doesn't equal success, but they do. They have, I forget the number of employees now. I think at the time they had 50 employees. And so they've invested in the support, for their franchise owners, but also, they're big, Barre3 online. So they have a very big presence online through their online workout and their streaming workout platform. So they have done all the right things to create the support to grow and to grow smart. They've chosen to grow a little bit slower than other bar-based franchises for good reason. So they do. I think at the time we had twice the number of employees in the home office that our nearest competitor did. So I think they do really invest in making sure that things are done right.
Yeah.
Because they obviously want all their franchises to be successful. So after so many years, they know what works and, what doesn't work for the most part. and you kind of learn as you go in some areas too.
So now you teach classes, right? And then what is on your shoulders as far as like growing the business and what kind of, because obviously the more people come, the more classes you have to offer. So then at that point you have to start hiring employees or contractors. I don't know how that works.
Yeah, no, you wear a lot of hats.
Yeah.
I have an incredible staff, but you do wear a lot of hats, especially, prior to opening, there's that construction hat and there's accounting and finance and analytics and HR, and you're a coach and you're a mentor. And then, by the way, you're a mom and a wife too. So
on top of all that,
it's you feel like, well, I do, at least you're just incessantly like on a hamster wheel. And every day's a little different. But you're asking in terms of the kind of what we do on a daily basis, or
like what at this point, like what is your goal? Like what do you see for your business? What do you see for yourself? How do you want to grow it? All that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So, well, the growth comes naturally, but it also, our focus, we're so laser focused on delivering an exceptional client experience. New clients, returning clients like your wife, anyone who walks through the door, kind of no matter where they are, where they come from, and how long they plan on staying, that they're really important to us. And so that is everything that we're focused on. Mm-hmm. So from teaching remarkable classes every single time, to the way they're greeted at their front door, to the studio being impeccably clean and having the best retail and having superior childcare. I mean, that is our focus, and a lot of that turns into word of mouth and getting people in the door. But the thing that never ends for us is that revolving door of clients, is that, people move and things change. And so that base of clients that you work really hard to grow is constantly changing. And so you are always scratching and clawing to maintain and to grow kind of all at the same time. So that from a client base, and then also, from a staffing base, sometimes you do lose people. And so you have to kind of hold your ground and recruit and kind of get back to where you are. But it's all growth. And what doesn't change is that community outreach, teaching classes, getting out there, networking, getting involved in communities where it makes sense. That'll never end.
Yeah.
For us,
does a lot of that
no
fall on your shoulders as far as that goes, the vision and direction, or yes, I would say yes. I'm still very much in charge of the strategy, and I take all of that kind of upon myself. However, I have, again, an amazing staff, and I do have a studio manager who's very involved in the business and who helps me in basically every aspect. And so she and I make a really good team, and we're able to kind of extend our efforts and also allow me. I also had found out I was pregnant 19 days into opening the studio. Oh, wow.
So I had a baby in the first year. So all that, became very challenging, but she and I together are working to grow. And yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah. So do you find, is there like constraints to your growth as far as would you have to move different spaces, or is there kind of like the sky's the limit?
I mean, for the most part, sky is the limit.
Because I've only seen like smaller studios. Like you've never seen like a giant place, but I'm sure maybe in Seattle or Oregon there's like larger.
So truly the only constraint is the number of spaces you have in your studio. So there's certain classes where you have capacity constraints. Mm-hmm. But we're still not even 2 years in, and so we're in a growth phase. And I think most studios do see a pretty big upwards tick for at least 3 years, and so we're still seeing really good growth. And we have a lot of room in terms of the schedule to build out to a more full schedule. We're almost, I think we're at 32 classes, and there is capacity in terms of the day to grow to like 48. I think that's a lot of classes, and I'm not sure when we'll get there, but there is.
That's like how you could do that.
Yeah, you could. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So do you find yourself kind of thinking about the business constantly, just thinking about how to grow, or?
It's 24/7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or are people calling you? I mean, like, hey, so-and-so called in sick, or...
In terms of like staffing
yeah, I mean, do you
difficulties,
deal with all those things too, or does your studio manager handle a lot of that stuff?
A little bit of both. I mean, a little bit of both. I mean, I think the part that you're just never off.
Yeah.
Whether you're on vacation or away from the studio at night. And I think some owners are probably better than others at just shutting it off. Mm-hmm. And I'm not one that's very good at that. I can't, it's not that it's, I'm not comparing anyone else at all. It's something I actually need to work on is kind of finding that little separation. Yes. that elusive term that we strive for in our studio, but also in my life is finding that balance. And it's hard because I love it so much and I care about it. I care about our clients. I care about our staff, and I just really enjoy it. And it's an extension. It's kind of my legacy aside from my children.
Yeah.
It's so personal to me. So I care about every email. I care about every client experience, good or bad. And I care about, the studio being deep cleaned. And I mean, every little bit of it is very personal to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, is that those kind of things, like the studio being clean, the customer service, is that a bar thing, or is that like a lot of your personality?
The client experience is, I think, what Barre3 studios aim to do across the country. I can't speak for other bar-based companies. And again, I think, I'm OCD anal. So that just carries into the fact that when somebody walks into the bathroom, I want it to be spotless.
Yeah.
And when they're working on the floor, in the middle of our class, I want it to be clean. I don't want, that really matters to me. It mattered to me as a client and it matters to me now. And so, it matters to the people that work for me.
Yeah.
Because it's a big deal.
I think that's awesome, because I think you go to a lot of places and even like restaurants or something like that, and you just have that sense like, I don't think the owner cares about this. Like it may have that shininess, but then you go to the bathroom and it's like filthy. You're like, oh, yeah, somebody's like,
I know. I didn't probably notice it as much as I do notice now.
Right.
Just as much as I care about it, cleaning the corners and the toilets and folding towels and, it is monotonous work, and like you said, you wear so many hats, but it's mine. It's a labor of love, and I'll be on my hands and knees because I care about it, and it really matters. And it actually makes me feel really good to know that it's being cared for, and that the clients see it, because we get comments all the time, not just about cleanliness. That's one thing, but they notice it. And they tell me how much they appreciate it. So it's not going unnoticed.
Yeah.
Which is good.
That's good.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's one of those things too, when you pay attention to the details, sometimes there's people like something, they don't know why they like it, right? It's like that magical something, but it's like, oh, because I've spent all this time working on these things and paying attention to these details, it's just something magic happens where someone connects with that and they don't even know why.
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty cool.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, awesome. It sounds just like an amazing story as far as like from where you came from, just playing tennis, going to college, working in the medical device industry, and then owning your own franchise.
Yeah.
And it's really cool that you're able to do something that you love and have the help that you have, from the franchise.
Absolutely. I mean, there's so much of it. It's, the support from my husband too.
Had you ever thought about doing your own business? Like, hey, let's do snow cones or
no, no, not at all. I mean, I think my husband and I have, in the past have talked about like opening a wine shop or something when we're retired, but
Right.
never really seriously. And actually, he came from a family of small business owners. His grandfather came across the boat from Italy and
wow.
owned a small business. He was owned a shoe shop in Baltimore. So he grew up in that environment, and I didn't. It was almost like a true stroke of fate and luck that kind of led me here. And I am very fortunate to have a supportive husband. I mean, it is scary from a financial standpoint. I mean,
Right.
all kind of romance aside, it's a huge investment, and it's scary. And it's
Yeah.
really scary, just because the Barre3 studios have been successful in the past doesn't mean that everyone is going to be successful. And I think that was, not the main driving force behind my drive to be successful and to make sure that, we are not going to fail. But fear is a motivator.
Yeah.
It just is. And, luckily we're certainly well past that hump. And it is a lot more enjoyable now. I think, prior to opening the doors in the first couple of months, it's just, there's so much fear, is this going to work?
Yeah.
But the fuel behind it, again, is what I'm so lucky to have is that passion to do something that I love and really care about, so that, doing emails late at night or, taking time away from my kids and, kind of not being able to unplug in situations where I'd like, it's all worth it to me in the end. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing it. I think that's a big piece.
It seems like you have a really cool culture as far as people get really invested in.
Yeah.
I know, like my wife, she goes to your studio, and that's why we're even having this conversation.
Thanks, Rebecca.
Because she thought you're really cool and you should have her on your show. I said, all right, sounds good. You fit in my demographic of people who I want to hear their story. But yeah, it seems like you've built a really good culture, because she's a fan and she tells all of her friends.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's really important when you're creating something, to create something where you have passionate followers, essentially.
Yeah, and that's a big piece of Barre3 from a studio level, but even at a greater level, and reaching all the thousands of people who stream Barre3 across the country or across the world, is community and creating a sense of belonging and a home for people, a safe place for people. And I think that's what Barre3 studios do throughout the country, is they create an amazing sense of community for people, of acceptance. Group fitness in and of itself can be very intimidating, especially as a woman, to walk into a studio and not know what to expect, and to have all sorts of fears. I mean, you name it. We've seen it. We felt it. I felt it. We've been there. And when they walk in our studio, we want everyone to feel like we're just giving them a big hug, like, this is your place. We got you. You're going to have an amazing class. And if there's, we're here for you for whatever you need, because so much of it is not related to Barre3.
Right.
People go, life is hard and messy, and I think Barre3 and being there kind of strips away that a little bit. And it becomes so much more than a workout. It becomes so much more than, a fitness studio. It is a community. And I think we have been very fortunate in hiring a lot of really good people. And I think that's one thing that I'm most proud of, is being patient and hiring the right people, and not just growing because I need bodies, but waiting and making sure that they're the right people.
Like a culture fit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so that even when I'm not there, that they embrace it and they understand it, appreciate it, and love it. And that's why they do it. It exudes from everyone. And I think that's the type of client that we also attract, is, we have an amazing group of clients, and they are generous and supportive and kind, and they are whip smart. They are, they're just badass. And I like being around them, and they like being around each other, and they form friendships, whether or not they knew each other before or after, or sometimes they're finding friends that they hadn't seen in a while, and all of a sudden they find themselves going to the same studio. So it's really fun to see that being fostered within the walls that you've built. And then also from a personal standpoint, I think the piece of it that's kind of comes back to the part I love most about competitive tennis is my team. and the group of girls that are kind of in the trenches with you.
You're the captain all over again.
Yeah, but yes, I am. But it's different. It is mine, but it's also theirs. They take a lot of pride in ownership of what they do, and again, no one's really doing it for the money. They do it because they love it and they want to better people's lives, and it gives them a sense of fulfillment. And I think that's what makes it so special, is that everyone truly loves it, and they do it because of that passion, and because they want to help people. And these group of girls, I mean, I couldn't have picked. I mean, I think when I started off, I was like, how on earth am I going to find a team to teach these classes? And I never could in my wildest dreams have put together a group that teach such phenomenal classes, but they're just awesome people, and we all get along, and it's just phenomenal. It's so fun.
Yeah.
It's so fun. It's like having your team all over again, and it's even better.
That's cool. That's awesome. So I want to hear a little bit about your interests, things that you're into. One question I had was, excuse me, did you have any mentors or, people that you called and said, man, this is hard, and that just encourage you? Or
the Barre3 owner network is very generous. There's a couple different avenues where we all kind of interact and ask questions and reach out, and I can't think of anyone that hasn't been completely generous with questions from me and from other people. I think the lines are like always open. I don't have a mentor, hey, so-and-so is, Katie's mentor out in Denver, but the lines are open, and I've called a few seasoned owners on a few different things, but it's the girls that I went through my owner training with when I was out in Portland. We were there for almost 2 weeks, and you become extremely close. And I think there's a group of 8 of us now, and we are in constant contact, and they're like sisters,
to me.
They're my family, and they know everything. They've been through it all. They, the good, the bad, the ugly. There isn't anything that we haven't seen, and they offer such amazing advice. And between that group of 8 girls and kind of our other owner networks, I mean, they're like my lifeline. And so I don't get to see them that often. It's at least once a year.
But you have like a
back
Facebook
at the
group
owners.
Or something?
We're on a group text. So I
Nice.
think, I don't know, like 500 messages a day. And there is a closed Facebook group for all the owners.
Yeah, nice.
So they're my lifeline. Like they're my, they're my ride or die.
What do you do to stay inspired or, stay motivated? What are some things that you do for yourself?
Outside or with, in terms of the business?
Yeah, I think, both. Like, because a lot of times, right, you get discouraged or you get overworked, or you're spinning so many plates. What are things you do for yourself, like that you say, all right, whether it's reading or,
Well, this is an area I'm not great in.
An area of growth.
An area of growth. An area of opportunity.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, oddly enough, I need to be a client just as much as my clients do. And so I think sometimes you find yourself either teaching a lot of classes, or, life just getting too hectic where you don't get to go in and just be a client and just get to take class and move and whatever that means for you in that day. So I try and take classes as a client, and, I'm not very good at carving out time to do other things. But I've been trying to take better care of my body. It's a very physical job. I've been a lot more cognizant and aware of putting my work away at a certain time at night, whereas I could get sucked in, and work until midnight every night if I allowed myself to. So it's really, it's a daily, I think, balance of getting things done and then being with my family. It's, if I'm not at the studio or at home working. I'm with my family, and I'm mom. So that's a lot of my life outside of the studio.
How old are your kids?
Is being mom. My daughter turns 5 on Saturday,
nice.
and my son turns 1 on Monday.
Oh, wow.
So they're just 2 days, 4 years, 2 days. It was a close call there. I went into labor the day after her birthday.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, and just spending time just outside the studio with my husband. We love to cook, and we love really good wine. And
I think I like your husband.
Yeah,
he likes to cook. I'm like,
and he's
Italian.
He's actually a very talented baker too.
Okay, nice.
A very talented baker. So it's a good thing I do own a fitness studio. So we're just we're kind of homebodies.
Yeah.
We spend a lot of time together. We're really invested in our children, and back in the day we used to travel all the time, but that's kind of on the back burner for now.
For a little season.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, but if I'm not working or with my family, you can usually find me cooking and trying to enjoy a glass of wine and unwind.
That's
from
awesome.
being mom.
What's your favorite food?
Favorite food?
Yeah.
Gosh.
Are you like super strict
No.
diet wise? It's like
no. I mean everything
balance,
in moderation. Truly, I think I'd go crazy. Like I said, my husband's a baker, so there's always something around the house. I definitely have a sweet tooth, but I do. I mean, I think everything in moderation. I know that when I eat better, I feel better, and I certainly perform better in the studio. But I'm by no means like a total health food nut who isn't fun to go out to dinner with. No. But I know enough about nutrition that I think we do eat pretty healthy, and then we try to do some fun things on the weekends. But usually the week is just making things fast and healthy, and then spending a little bit more time getting creative on the weekends. But if I probably had to eat like one meal, it would probably be pizza.
Oh yeah,
I think it's just the perfect food.
The variations, the combinations are limitless.
Yeah, no, I think we've got this amazing recipe for like a fall pizza that has butternut squash, and
nice.
You think there's apples and honey and chili powder. It's so
goat
good.
Cheese
Yep. Give me anything with sage.
Seriously.
This time of year, and pumpkin. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm taking my son to New York in December. He turned 10, and I was like, "Where do you want to go?" And he's like, "New York."
Awesome.
So I'm like, "All right, let's go." So me and him are going to go, and I'm excited for him to eat a bunch of pizza in New York.
I don't even know where you begin. There's just so many options there.
I know, it's great.
So fun.
All right, what about you said wine? So wine over cocktail.
Yeah, usually, I mean, I ever since having 2 kids, you go about a year pregnant, you're not drinking, and then you go however many months of breastfeeding and barely drinking, and so I can't really have a whole lot these days.
You're lightweight now,
much to my chagrin. So yeah, it's either one or the other. I'm definitely wine. I can't really drink heavier wines anymore. Yeah. I don't feel good.
Yeah, it's more light.
Yeah, like a lighter Pinot, and I love rosé. I'm not really a shardy party girl. But and then my husband makes a pretty mean, dirty martini.
Okay.
But again, I don't even think I can finish it.
Right.
These days.
Yeah, I'm a fan of the dirty martini.
Yeah. Do you do blue cheese olives?
Oh, yeah.
Are you vodka or gin?
I like both.
Okay.
But I usually go for a gin. I like that. Okay. The florals.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
It's got like
adds a little bit of depth to the flavor there.
It does.
Yeah. What about, I mean, do you have anything other than spending time with your family cooking? Like, do you have a hobby or some sort of talent that you like? Can you juggle or?
I'm a really good golfer.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty
it's
cool.
It's actually something I picked up, and I really have a hard time just saying that, but I picked it up kind of later, into high school, and I played golf in high school for 2 years and finished 5th in state.
Dang. Golfers and tennis players, they kind of hang too.
I know, but at this point, I was so far in it with tennis years, and
you could have been like women PGA if you would have like pursued that.
This sounds so arrogant, and I have such a hard time talking about this.
We won't judge you.
But I think I really would have been a much better golfer.
Really? Yeah.
Much better. I took 2 lessons.
And probably the competition would have been a little bit lighter.
It is. It's not one of those big mainstream sports that every girl grows up playing golf.
Right.
So it's kind of fun because my husband...
You could have been hanging with Tiger Woods.
I don't know.
I don't know if you want to hang with Tiger Woods.
Not really one of my favorites. But yeah, it's fun for my husband. We haven't golfed much since the kids came along, but he likes to he likes to see the guys' reaction on the golf course
when you're just crushing
when we hit the first tee, and yeah, he tells it a much better story than I do.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's great.
Yeah, and I actually look forward to doing that a lot more. Once my son's a little bit older, and my husband and I, it's a lifelong sport, and my husband plays as well, and my family's really into it. So, I look forward to getting back to that because it is relaxing.
Right.
And, I love being outside, and it's a lot of fun, and you can do it with anyone really.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of my hidden talent.
Golf.
Yeah, isn't that weird?
It's weird, but cool too.
I can stripe it. Yeah.
That's awesome. I wish I was better at golf. I don't golf at all, but I can drive a mean cart and drink a beer.
Oh yeah,
like nobody's business. You know,
it's the best part.
That's right. So, what about? Do you have any books or anything like that you listen to or read?
I just started. I'm only about 50 or 60 pages in, but I'm reading the Dare to Lead book, Brené Brown.
Yeah.
And I really like that, and I know a lot of friends who have read a bunch of their books, and so they've always kind of been pushing me towards that. So I'm working to carve that time, to read that book, and a lot of it does hit home, which is nice. It's very applicable to what I'm doing right now. So,
what about music? Are you into music, like what, EDM only, or?
I love music. It's one of the things I love the most about Barre3 is it's so music driven.
Do you get to make your own playlists and stuff like that?
We do.
It's like every teacher has their own style, kind of.
Yes. Like some instructors have kind of they like a little bit of a poppy sound, and then some instructors are a little bit more moody and more tribal and less words. And in our classes, there's a certain part of class that needs a certain type of music, maybe more house and like less talking and more kind of ability for people to focus inward. And sometimes, we need a little, a lot of bass. But that's a really fun part of what we do is that we're all very musically driven and we love it. And so we let the music craft our classes. Like it drives what we teach, how we teach it. And it really drives, I think, what the clients feel is it's hard to describe. Yeah. I mean, maybe Rebecca could tell you a little bit more about it, but music invokes such emotion.
Yeah, it does.
And so in your classes, the certain moments of intensity or moments of struggle or moments of really kind of drawing inward, music does that.
Yeah.
And then at the end of our classes, it's been a new kind of evolution to our classes. We take some time, and it's somewhat of like a guided meditation. It's a breath sequence where you just you really just let go, and just for a couple minutes you close your eyes and you breathe, and in between the instructor and the music, it's really calming and centering. And in this day and age where all we do is go, 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 60 miles an hour all day long, for those who don't have a consistent meditation practice, it is so nice to finish class and to have that time to just kind of recenter yourself. And then you leave class and you're, not only re-energized from the class itself, but you're just clear. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure clients have other ways to kind of describe how they feel, but so much of that is music. And so much of my day is listening to music. A lot of it's Barre3 music. So, but we love going to concerts, and, I'm a big Mumford & Sons fan.
Nice.
But I find myself, kind of steering away from listening to more like bands and radio into more, it's all about the class.
Right.
I know.
That's awesome.
It's super boring. Everything is about Barre3 and my kids.
That sounds like a good life.
It is, because
awesome life.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Well, hey, I just want to thank you so much for coming on the show and kind of sharing your story.
Sure.
I'd like for you to maybe just give one word of encouragement, or someone who's thinking about starting their own business, or someone who's maybe in the trenches.
Yeah.
Maybe if you just have a parting word that you could share.
Yeah. I was kind of thinking about this on, leading up to our time. And, a couple of things is, I think, in terms of starting or running your own business, I think having that passion and the reason behind, like, what's your why? Like, why are you doing this? I think for most small business owners, it's not about money. Obviously we all have to be financially sound and successful in order to continue to run your business and keep the doors open. But, the why, isn't, for me, it isn't about money at all. It never has been. And I think that's why I have so much in my tank, is because I have the passion and just the sheer love for it. So I think it's, if you're chasing something that really matters to you and you know why you're doing it, then you're never going to look for ways to refuel your tank. It's always going to be there.
Right.
And then the other piece is to have patience, to never settle for the right location, the right people, the right time. It's just, I think having that quiet confidence about what you stand for and the quality and your, I guess, never settling would be my kind of piece of advice, is that don't worry about who's going to fill the role. It's just wait for the right person.
That's awesome.
And success will follow.
Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story and just, spending your time with us today. So,
of course, thank you for your interest.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I wish you all the best, and
thank you.
I just hope that you continue to crush. And
when are you going to be in for class?
Never.
Come on.
I like to support in other ways. I watch kids, a lot of times, so that Rebecca can go to classes, and I'm more of a
support role.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. Well, cool. Awesome. Thank you so much. And have an awesome day.
Same to you.
Okay.